Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
A very warm welcome in the 5th module of week 2 of the course Roadmap for Patent Creation, titled Industrial Application. In the earlier module, we have seen the non-obviousness aspect. In that, we have noted that invention should be non-obvious if it has to be considered for patent granting. We have also checked the terminology FOSITA, person having ordinary skill in the art. Now, we will concentrate on the third criteria for patent, that is industrial application. The title industrial application clearly indicates it is application in industry. Fine. So, the invention must have industrial utility. So, as per the term, it is correct that industrial application is application of invention in industry. Whether law says same thing, let us check that. So, how Patent Act defines the term industrial application? Section 2(1) AC of the Indian Patents Act 1970 defines capable of industrial application in relation to an invention, means the invention is capable of being made or used in an industry. So, generally from this definition we understand that invention must have practical utility. Historical justification of the industrial applicability is to assure society receives a positive effect. Now, as per Act, we will check the definition. We know the definition of invention and inventive step. So, first step anyone have to do is to consider these two definitions and check if the invention under consideration follows the two definition. Then, as per above mentioned definition, next step is to check if the invention under consideration follows industrial application definition. The term industrial application was introduced in Patent Act through the amendment in 2002. It says invention is capable of being made or used in an industry. In Lakhpati Rai and others versus Sri Kishan Das and others, it was held that utility does not mean improvement, it means practicability. We will see now further details. Let us check first what is the meaning of industry. As per Investopedia, industry is a group of companies that are related based on their primary business activities. I repeat, industry is a group of companies that are related based on their primary business activities. It should be understood in its broad sense as including any useful and practical and as distinct from intellectual or a aesthetic activity. Now, the question is what can be considered as an industrial applicable? So, the important is invention must possess utility for the grant of patent. No patent can be granted for an invention devoid of utility. Many times when invention is related to methods of testing, then in such case the industrial applicability will be judged as applicable to improvement or control of a product, apparatus or process. But then the important is to indicate the purpose of the test. Let us try to understand this. Methods of testing are generally regarded as a capable of industrial application. In such cases, there will be improvement. So, it says method of testing and applicable to improvement. So, this improvement is in what? It may be in a product, it may be in an apparatus or it may be a process, which itself is capable of industrial application. So, something is already existing and it is improved. In such cases, it is suggested to indicate the purpose of the test. In such cases, the contribution by the inventor is to make the product, apparatus or process better than the existing. So, summarize this aspect, the purpose should be clearly mentioned in the draft of the patent, that is mentioned why that particular test is required, because this will give the understanding of the industrial applicability of the invention. There are certain things which do not qualify this test of industrial applicability. Which are these scenarios? Let us check out. So, first is practical application must be distinct. Mere intellectual input resulting into some output is not satisfying the criteria of industrial applicability. We will see an example to understand this. Practical and useful and intellectual efforts or a intellectual input. So, suppose an inventor invents that lining of gold in pipes is useful to avoid the conversion of water into ice. So, gold lining or a plating is to be done to avoid the conversion of water into ice. Thus, it says that use of gold solves the issue of breaking of that pipes in winter season due to ice formation. So, the inventor solves the issue of that, the problem that is a breaking of the pipes, but whether it is practical? Of course not. So, if solution is not practical, one cannot consider it for patent granting. Gold plating for the pipes, obviously it is not practical, and so such kind of invention cannot be considered for granting. Similarly, the aesthetic aspect. Inventor have developed some product. He had then put his efforts to make that product more attractive. He has invested good amount of time, months time. The product which was looking very simple now looks very attractive. The change made is that the same product looks very attractive. Due to this, business also increased. So, some aspect is there, that is business is increased. So, can we consider the efforts of inventor to provide aesthetic value? The answer is no. For patent, practical application is important. If that aesthetic input is not giving any of this, that is a practicability, then that invention cannot be considered for patent granting. Thus, mere intellectual efforts and mere aesthetic input does not satisfy industrial applicability criteria. Now, we will see next scenario, the vague and speculative indication. The purpose of granting a patent is not to reserve an unexplored field of research for any applicant. Let us consider the example. Some inventor is working on the project. He has defined his objectives and now achieved success to complete the first two objectives. Now, he is still working on other objectives. However, he projected and thought that other than 5 objectives on which he or she is working, a few more issues can be resolved in future. He has not given solution, but predicted the outcome. So, it is a vague and speculative indication. If he or she claims that vague or speculative indication in the patent draft, then that will not be acceptable and that will not be granted. Such claims will be removed and such patent will be granted after necessary amendments only. So, speculative things are not accepted in the patent draft. Let us check this example from the life sciences domain. Now, in this case, that is a novel PTP20, PCP2, BDP1, CLK and SIRP proteins and related products. Now, inventor, this invention discloses the description of proteins, structural features, that is a amino acid sequence and their enzymatic activities. In the patent draft, the example of BDP1 polypeptide is explained. The amino acid sequence BDP1 polypeptide was given as a CQ, sequence ID number 3 in the description. The said polypeptide, that is a sequence ID number 3 BDP1 is found to be associated with a tyrosine phosphatase activity. So, that enzymatic activity is taken care by sequence ID number 3. Detailed description about method and means for making BDP1 polypeptide by DNA techniques, this is also described in the invention. The hypothesis that BDP1 polypeptide may have some role in cellular housekeeping and in certain types of cancer. So, that is a hypothesis. It is speculated that BDP1 polypeptide could be made and used as a further tool for exploring the complex cellular signal transduction pathways. So, that is the speculation. Now, how to use this and what is the process or method for that whatever the hypothesis or speculation is. What was the speculation? It is speculated that BDP1 polypeptide could be made and used as a further tool for exploring the complex cellular signal transduction pathways. This is speculation, no any explanation about the process method, nothing in the draft. Thus, no industrial applicability could be derived from such description. So, in this way, this vague or speculative thing cannot be accepted and this cannot be granted. So, this is the example of that vague or speculative thing. Now, the next scenario. Sometimes inventor claims processes or products which are clearly contrary to well established physical laws, such claims which are contrary to physical laws cannot be accepted. In Page's application, it was claimed by the inventor to produce new hydrogen species. This is a very landmark case, and here inventor said that through this process new hydrogen species can be produced, and the hydrogen species described in the application involves the electron existing in a lower energy state than the lowest possible energy state recognized in standard physics. Hence, such claim by inventor will be rejected and does not qualify for the patent granting. So, anything which is contrary to the well established physical laws, such claims will not be accepted. Then next, it is also mentioned in the act that any invention related to method of treatment of the human or animal body by surgery or therapy or of diagnosis practiced on the human or animal body shall not be taken to be capable of industrial application. There is a section 3, and in that section 3 we have to see what are the things which are not considered for the patentability. So, there also we will see such related point, but here you just remember that if anything is related to surgery and treatment on the human or animal body, then it will not be considered as a industrial application. So, the next one, it is regarding the parts or pieces of the human or animal body to be considered for a transplant. So, such thing also objected as not being capable of a industrial application. Thus, mere intellectual activity, mere aesthetic activity, vague and speculative indication, contrary to well established physical laws, method of treatment of human or animal body, and the usage of parts or pieces of the human or animal body in transplant. So, this total 6 things which we have just discussed disqualifies industrial applicability. Now, let us now quickly go through the landmark judgments related to this aspect of industrial applicability to get more clarity of this aspect. In Chiron Corporation versus Murex Diagnostics Limited and others, it was held that the requirements that the invention can be made or used in any kind of industry so as to be capable of industrial application carries the connotation of trade or manufacture in the widest sense and whether or not profit, and further that no industry exists in that sense to make or use that which is useless for any known purpose. So, this is what the case, that is a Chiron Corporation versus Murex Diagnostic Limited. Now, the next one, in the High Court of Australia in NRDC's application, it was stated that there must be a product, but this need not be an article or but must be something in which a new or useful effect, be it creation or alteration, may be observed. It may, for example, be a building or a tract or a stratum of land on electrical oscillation, but it must be useful in practical affairs. A method of eradicating weeds was held to give rise to a product, an improved crop, because it was an artificially created state of affairs. Moreover, it was one whose significance was economic. So, in this way, that weed eradication machine, it can be considered because there is a practical application. So, practical applicability, anything which is useful in practical affairs can be considered. In the next case, that is in John Larry Khan's application, it is clarified that a method for effecting introduction with a view to making friends was held not to be industrial applicable, even though it could be carried out by a commercial enterprise. So, it is clarified the method for effecting introductions with a view to making friends was held not to be industrial application. It is also found to be excluded as a method of doing business. So, it is not considered under a business method also. This is very important to understand. Many inventors, especially students, develops various mobile applications and they feel that it should be patented, but as per law, if it is not giving that industrial applicability, then that will not be considered for granting of patent. Next case, in Eastman Kodak Company versus American Photo Booths Incorporated, it was held that the folded optical path as described and claimed could not give rise to the claimed narrowing of the depth of field. It was observed that the claim and the actual output are different. It is observed that the invention lacks both industrial applicability and sufficiency of disclosure. So, in the draft there was a claim about flying gyroscope, an article of which details are not disclosed. So, it was just claimed there will be a flying gyroscope, but what is that flying gyroscope? What are the specifications of that? That is not given. So, sufficiency of disclosure is the issue, and the second, industrial applicability is the issue. So, because of these two reasons, this patent is not granted. As both industrial applicability and sufficiency of disclosure were the issues, this patent is not granted. Thus, when we think of industrial applicability, then we have to clearly mention the process and the outcome and its use in industry. Also, you have to check if it is not mere intellectual activity, mere aesthetic activity, vague and speculative indication, contrary to well established physical laws, method of treatment of the human or animal body, and usage of parts or pieces of the human or animal body in transplant. So, that 6 aspects which we have seen, you have to check that thing. So, I hope now with this explanation you have clearly understood what these 3 criteria for patentability is, that is novelty, non-obviousness and the industrial applicability. Let us see one example here of the industrial applicability. With this, we come to the end of the session as well as end of the second week. The next week is dedicated on how to read a patent. See you in the next session. Thank you.